Everybody, welcome to another thrilling episode of Data Exposed. I'm your host, Scott Klein, and with me today is Bob Ward and Parikshit. How are you doing?
Doing good, sir.
I wasn't even going to attempt your last name, because I barely got through your first name. So
you can call me Parik.
Yeah, okay, Parik. We call him Parik.
Okay, good, because
exactly.
that's what I'm going to call you.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. All right, so before we get started, have you introduce yourselves, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, I'm Bob Ward. I actually used to be in support. You've seen me from support before,
yep,
Scott.
Yep.
I work in the product team now. I'm actually an architect in the SQL product team. Yes.
If you know SQL Server, you know Bob. That's how I would say it.
Infamous, is that maybe the right word?
Infamous. If you don't know Bob Ward, get your head out of the sand.
Yeah, that's okay. That's very, very kind of you. But yeah, I'm an architect now in the SQL team, and just love rocking SQL Server, man.
Okay.
So, yeah.
This is Parikshit Savjani, or you can call me Parik. I'm a program manager with SQL Server Tiger team.
Okay.
So that's
Tiger.
So
I work in the Tiger team too.
Yeah, that's right. That's what the T stands for.
That's right.
Or Tulane.
It's Texas Ranger. Let's get it right here.
Yeah. This is like an episode of Sesame Street. Today's episode is brought to you by the letter T.
Tiger Texas Rangers.
Tiger Team.
Tiger Team. That's right.
So what is because being at Microsoft, there's the SEALs team, the Tiger team, the all these different. Right?
Yeah.
What is the Tiger team?
right. So we're part of the customer success org in SQL Server product group. Our core focus is to make customers and communities successful on SQL Server, and yeah, that's what, just to make sure that they are successful and prefer SQL Server as a platform with their choice.
Okay. We're one of those rare birds. We're the guys that actually are very technical in the product team, but we can talk to customers. Is that?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a knock. I probably.
You're the people. Yeah, you just offended the entire product
org. Building 16 is going to find out that I said that.
The whole entire second floor.
That's right. Exactly.
So they're the people that let you out of the building to talk to
we
people.
We go to events. And we actually go a lot to customer events. And he just got back from one. He's tired, man. He just got back from a customer.
You were looking a little numb.
I was in New York, so there's a difference, time difference also adds to it.
Only 3 hours. That's not much. Right. All right. So we have done. I've had, like we talked before, right? We've had Tobias and Slava talking about
the Linux,
the whole Linux thing, but we haven't really focused on 17.
Right.
But that's why you're here today?
Absolutely. We're here to talk about 17. I mean, Linux is a big part of 17, let's be honest. I mean, that's the big flagship thing we're doing in 17. But a lot of people don't realize there's other features we're putting in 17 that work both on Windows and Linux.
Yep.
And we kind of like to come here and talk about that stuff. And I even have a slide.
Oh my goodness.
A slide. Yeah. So if you look at this slide.
As long as it's only one.
As long as we only have one. We're doing demos, dude. We're doing one slide.
That's what the show's
all about. You got to have a slide.
Yeah.
I've been talking to Parik and the Tiger team, and I said, guys, do you realize over the history of time in SQL, all the stuff we put together for diagnostics and telemetry and stuff. If you look at this slide, the number of DMVs and extended events and perfmon counters and show plan things and all the kind of stuff we did, if you put it all together, I kind of think we can say we have the best built-in diagnostics in the industry because all this stuff is built into the engine.
Yep.
Right.
You don't have to have a bunch of things outside of SQL to use it. It's all just built into the engine itself.
So is this what, because for a long time we've heard this thing, intelligent database, right?
Yeah, that's right.
And is this, I would say yes, but in your opinion, is this what the things that make it intelligent?
Well, that's the kind of way we're trying to move. I mean, again, look at these little quadrants I've got here, right? First of all, I think it's anywhere we run SQL. So in the upper left-hand quadrant, we run on SQL, which you're familiar with on Windows. We run on SQL on Linux, but all this stuff, a lot applies to Azure too, Azure SQL. If you look at the upper right-hand corner, we have reports that we have built into Management Studio that use some of this stuff. But look at these vendors you have listed here. These folks who are popular vendors people use in their environments, they're powered by this stuff. They use this built-in telemetry to power all the great technology they bring.
Yeah, all the third-party apps that they build.
Exactly. And then the bottom left-hand quadrant is kind of the categories that we cover in the Tiger team. Performance, everybody cares about performance, right?
Yeah.
And we have a demo. We're going to talk about that later. Server, Parik's going to talk about backups. That's a thing people care about. And HADR, like always on availability groups. But look at the bottom right-hand quadrant. So the idea, what we'd like to do is instead of just having this telemetry sit there and you visualize it yourself or whatever, why don't we make it automatic? Like, why don't we use some of it ourselves in the engine to do smart things? So either you can use intelligence yourself based on what we've produced, or you're going to see a demo today where we're actually going to use our own intelligence in the engine to fix things automatically.
Sweet, okay. Now are these, I guess the question I have is, how far does Microsoft go to say, okay, we're going to go to here and build intelligence, and we're going to allow like our third-party vendors or even you to build your own? I mean, where does that, how do they define how far they go and
Sure.
you're going to keep going. I mean,
Sure.
does that question make sense?
These partners are still important to us, Brad. I mean,
Exactly. Our first step is to have the data exposed for customers. And then we use that data internally because we are working on the cloud. We do have managed services. So we use that data and build some automated services and expose the data for customers as well and third-party partners who can consume it and build intelligent solutions.
You're going to see these partners we have here, we very value them very much, right? I mean, they have
absolutely.
great products,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
they'll continue to use this stuff. In fact, like we're going to talk about today is something called Query Store.
Yeah.
It's another great built-in feature that they can take advantage of.
Yep.
And as far as the automation goes, one of the things you're going to see, we have a little bit of a theme, is that we're always going to provide recommendations first and allow you to turn on the automation if you'd like. So you can see what the automation would look like beforehand, and if you like it, then you can just turn it on. So it's never going to be, at least for SQL Server that we run in private clouds, for example, it's never going to be just automatic all the time. You make those decisions. But if you see what we do in Azure, we do provide a lot more built-in intelligence that's turned on all the time.
Because it's more hands-off.
Absolutely,
Right,
absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah,
So-
okay. How do we, and one last question before, because I
Yeah.
definitely
We
want
wanna
to
do
get to
demos, man. Come on.
Demos.
That's right.
How do we, going back to this intelligence, right?
Yeah.
How do we, how do I ask this? How do we define intelligence in SQL Server? Is it like you say, diagnostics and intelligence, but is this, how do we make things much easier?
Exactly.
Be able to get to the data, be able to understand the data, or what's
Instead
going
of,
on?
think of this picture here. We don't want to just provide you a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
We want to provide a bunch of stuff, though, but do it in a way that makes you intelligent, right?
Right.
It makes you more effective and more efficient. And then, like I said, in some cases, we want to, if you think it's okay, we'll use it to be intelligent ourselves. We'll actually let the engine itself do the work for you.
To learn from itself. It's kind of it's almost AI within SQL Server.
Yes.
I'm going to learn from myself.
It is machine learning in SQL Server.
Yes,
exactly.
Yeah, cool. All right. All right. Demo time.
Demo time?
Woo,
All right.
yeah.
Preet's got to talk about backups. This is his baby.
All right.
So.
We got to switch to Preet.
All right. So
There we go.
So this Power BI dashboard which you're seeing is possible only in SQL Server 2017 because of the new DMB which we have exposed. That's the new telemetry data which Bob was talking about.
Yep.
So this gives you all the information which all the DBAs would care about for transaction log. So what is the recovery model? When was the last backup time? A log truncation, what is it waiting on? Log MB. And this is a Power BI dashboard, but you can use any reporting tool. The backend for that is a DMB. So third-party
you're just pulling data from a
Exactly. I'm using Power BI for reporting, but customers can use whatever tools they're comfortable with. And we're going to put this in GitHub for customers in Tiger Toolbox.
By the way, we're going to do, that's one thing that we in Tiger really believe strongly about.
Right.
When we do stuff like this, we're going to put it in GitHub. We want everybody to see this stuff and use it for themselves.
That's
and
right.
fork it off if they want to.
Right. Oh, and improve it. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Nice.
So what I'm going to show you is the difference between how traditionally customers used to do backups without this telemetry information, wherein they didn't account for the active log in the transaction log. And that's the reason they used to see frequent auto grows, and that used to cause VLF fragmentation, performance issues on their SQL Server, because again, they were not sure, they were not exposed to this information before. So let me quickly show you. So I'll create a simple database. So I'm using a Smart IOD Grid demo, which is there in GitHub Microsoft Samples. It is used to simulate the data from Power Meters. So that's a backend database. I'll quickly clean up my stats, which is used for the Power BI dashboard. So this is the scheduled backup, and so I'm scheduling this every 1 minute in the interest of time. But yeah, most customers would use.
This is just time-based.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's
Which
like
is traditional. Everybody does time-based.
Right. So we're taking backups every 15 minutes, and let me now refresh my dashboard. So if you see here, there's no activity on the server. I've started backup, and backup so even if I'm not having any transactions running on the server, because it's time-based, I'm taking backups every 1 minute. So it doesn't have any intelligence of, is there any activity on the server? Should I even need a backup at this point in time? But because you don't have that information, you're just taking backups. And if you continue to see here.
Still taking 1 minute backup.
Right.
Yeah. But think about that. I mean, I'm just wasting, maybe not,
right,
but I'm just wasting disk space by taking backups for 15-minute increments
right.
when nobody's using the database, right? I mean, there's no reason.
So let me kickstart now activity, and I'll start my data generator app. So this is used to simulate the data from Power Grids. And let me...
As he's doing that, I'm just to add, the whole thinking here is that why don't we provide telemetry so that you only back up when you need to back up
right.
and prevent these auto grows. If you talk to anybody in the SQL Server, They know about auto grows, they know about VLFs and all that kind of
Right.
stuff, and it's just a pain for them,
Yeah.
right? So again, this is about us giving more intelligence to you to make things smarter.
Didn't Azure SQL DB implement, or don't they have some, or where was that at? Didn't SQL 14 or 16 implement something like that where it was based on activity in the database?
Yeah, that's a managed
Managed
backup, which you
backup.
recommend.
Managed
And that's
backup, yep.
so this is the cloud. This is the advantage of the cloud first engineering.
Yeah.
We learn while we're doing this in cloud, and then we use it back. It's the
Back,
same
yep.
code base which SQL Server has in cloud as well as
Yep.
on-prem. So
Okay, cool.
that's the reason it's. So now here you see as the activity goes down. So you begin to see this auto grow, and this is because as there is a new batches. If you see my activity,
Yep.
there is a spike, but I'm still waiting for the time-based 1 minute. I'm not looking at the active log. I'll still wait for the 1 minute, and by that time, I'll see an auto grow already. So my VLFs have increased. This is a VLF fragmentation.
Yep.
Auto grows, and quickly you'll run out of the disk space, and you did all the right thing. A DBA would say, I had my job scheduled, but
Yeah.
you still see your backups, and this is the root cause of the performance issues. In CSS, we see like 20% of the crit sets all caused because of the log growth issues.
Yeah, isn't it true, Parik, that in an auto grow scenario for the log,
Yeah.
if the auto grow sequence is for a large auto grow, I don't know,
Yeah.
10 gig or something, you hold up every transaction in the database until it's
Yeah.
complete. Can you imagine that?
Yeah.
You're holding up your entire workload for this thing to happen.
And if you're using replication, it
Yeah.
slows.
Whoops.
If you're using replication, it slows down your replication and all the other issues you would see. So this is the traditional world how you would do it before SQL Server 2017. So
Yeah.
let's now look at smart backups. So I'll clean up my scripts again. Let me stop my data grid. Clean up the scripts again.
Yes, he's running. He was talking about CSS. So these 20% of these cases are customers contacting our support team saying, why is this happening? Why did I have this big outage? Why have these auto grows? Why is my log growing when I
Right.
can't explain it? And we get into this scenario going,
Right.
well, you're not backing up based on activity. You're just doing based on this time, which is not really the right procedure,
okay.
right? But it's a traditional way of doing things.
Well, and that's kind of based on history.
History,
Right.
for
Yeah.
years of history.
For
right?
years,
Exactly. And some of these improvements are community driven. These are already requested by community customers on connect.microsoft.com, and that's where we've kind of picked it up. So if you see here now, I've had a threshold that if the active log exceeds 50 MB, then I would take a backup. So it's not time bound, but based on the activity on the server. So this is the new DMB which we have exposed in SQL Server 2017. So this is how smart backup would run. So let me start the smart backup. I'm not starting the activity now, but let's refresh my Power BI dashboard. So if you see here, there's no backup. There's activity, but there's no activity and there's no backup. Sorry. So if you see here, we don't take any backups. This would show any backups which are taken.
Oh yeah, like we saw the first time.
Yeah,
Like,
there's
Yes.
a bunch of backups.
Right,
Yeah.
and there is no activity on the server. There's minor activity, but we never cross 50 MB. Now let me start data grid to generate the data, and now we see some activity. Now it's important to see, previously we went up to 20 VLF count and this grew up to 400 MB with auto grow. Let's see how our smart backup behaves. So we got our first backup, 52 MB in size. We got a second backup, which is the threshold we had set. We got our third backup. You see the backup sizes are consistently same.
Yeah.
So when there was no activity, we didn't take any backups. When the activity started, we are making sure the backup sizes are uniform.
Yeah.
And if you see now the VLF count, there's no auto grows. We keep that under control. Yeah, if you see
And
here,
we're still down total
this
log
is
size. Yeah.
exactly.
Right. Yeah.
And the backup size remains consistent. This is intelligence, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
That's awesome.
Right.
Round of
Good job,
applause
good
for that.
job,
That's
that's
awesome.
all right.
Okay.
All right.
I have something.
Okay. You all right?
Why not? Why not?
All right. You can't leave Bob out.
It's all about
Right.
performance.
Yeah.
Have you heard of this thing called Query Store in SQL 16?
That was
Do you even
introduced
know what
in,
that is? SQL 16. Okay, a lot of people don't know what that is. So cool feature in SQL 16.
So, Cameron, we need to switch over to
Yeah,
Bob's.
switch over to me.
There we go. Sweet.
So think about traditional way of doing performance analysis, right?
Yeah.
We have this great DMVs we've had for years in SQL Server, but the traditional way is to poll them. You know, you run a query, you save it off. You run a query, you save it off.
Yeah.
CSS has something called
Right.
PSS Diag that does the same thing, which is a great way of doing things. So through the genius of a man named Connor Cunningham, maybe you've heard that guy before. He was the grandfather of this thing, right? He had this idea, why don't we persist that in the database? So now think of a way now in SQL 16 and post 16 and in Azure, where if you turn this on, we will take the historical information about your query execution and we'll store it in the database, including the plans of those queries, right? So that's SQL 16.
Can we back up for a second?
Of course.
How much overhead does that add to not only disk space and performance and things like that?
Sure.
Is it minimal?
I get that question all the time, and it can be it can actually be very minimal on overhead as far as execution goes. It depends a little bit on your workload. So it also depends how you configure it. So by default, this is configured to store 30 days worth of data, and it actually aggregates your information per hour. So you get the average execution of queries on an hourly basis. So if you narrow that window down, you can imagine we have to store more data. And if you actually throw more queries at it, let's say you've got a massive ad hoc workload where you're just constantly compiling and stuff, there's going to be a slightly more overhead depending on that workload. But there's even configuration parameters for that so that you filter that noise out and only focus on the ones you care about. So a lot of knobs to make this not a lot of overhead for you.
Let me ask you this then, because we want to get to that. But would it make sense maybe to do maybe another show on how to the knobs on
Query Store.
Query Store?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Consider this though. This is how we believe in this. It's on by default in Azure. It's running in over like, I don't know, a million databases in Azure right now. So we've learned from the cloud. And in fact, what you're going to see right now in SQL 17 is cloud learnings. We ran it in the cloud with Query Store. We learned something about it and said, hey, I think we can kind of push this down also to our SQL Server product, some of those learnings.
Yeah, see, and this was goes to the cloud first mentality. This is what
But not cloud only, just cloud first.
Exactly. Not cloud only, cloud first, which makes us to be able to deliver quicker releases, better product.
And a lot of telemetry we gather from that, right?
And we take that learnings back and bring that to the private cloud. Is that there's no on-prem. You don't have on-prem.
There's no such word as on-prem. It's all private cloud.
You don't have
anyways, look at this screen right here. This is from the Wide World Importer Sample Database, which I've restored to SQL 17. And this is kind of a typical, simple little workload. There's a stored procedure with a report. Have you ever heard of something called parameter sniffing, Scott?
Yes, I have.
We're going to talk about parameter sniffing. So let's say I run this workload with a given value of 7 right here, and I crank this off. And you see it runs fairly fast. In fact, it's going to finish like in a couple of seconds here. It runs like 30 executions of this procedure, right? Now, I have a procedure that I've added called a regression procedure. It's simulating parameter sniffing. So all it does is it clears procedure cache, which would simulate like a memory pressure scenario where this plan would go out of cache. And then it runs a stored procedure with a value that may not have a plan that's great for everybody else, but for only that one execution. Parameter sniffing. So if I run that guy, and I come back and I run the same workload again, but only even 20 times now, not 30 times, and you run it, you can just see on the screen how slower it's taking, right? It took like a couple of seconds. Now, in this example, it's like 3 times as slow, which is only like 9 seconds, but you can see the regression here. So this is a performance problem. So imagine in SQL 16 with Query Store, what you could do. You could go in Query Store and you could go look at reports and you could say, oh, I liked that plan that it used to use that was thrown out of cache, and I can tell the system, go force that one very quickly. A little bit like plan guides, but a little more easier way. So if you, Scott, got called in the middle of the night with this performance problem, you could go into Query Store, I know how to fix this. I can force the old plan and I'm back and running. In SQL 17, I got a better story for you. So first of all, we have this new DMV called DMDB Tuning Recommendations that once we detect one of these and you run this, it's going to give you suggestions. This is with this auto mode off. But just recommendations are always behind the scenes. And if you see here, it's actually telling us that the average CPU time for this query changed radically. 70 milliseconds to 300 milliseconds, right? And it's telling you, I think what you can do is you can actually force the old plan through this tsql command. So we have stored procedures that allow you do this, or you can do it through like a GUI, right? So you could do, that's the 16 way. Run Query Store, Scott gets awake in the middle of the night, forces the plan. But let's do it the 17 way. Let's go ahead and kind of clear the state we were at. This is just some commands. This will be up on GitHub as well. And we turn on this new option called Forced Last Good Plan On. Do you remember last known good with Windows? Remember that concept?
I do,
That's a little bit what we're doing here if you think about it, right? So I'll show you. So I'm going to run the same workload again. I'll run this 30 times, and it's got the same quick performance. A couple of seconds. It's the same thing I did before. I'll run the regression. Okay, now I'm going to start the workload and watch with the 20 iterations that it's kind of ka-chunk, kind of slower again. And I'm going to go back and I'm going to look at that same DNV to see what it says with my auto setting on.
Okay.
Let's see what it says here. And you notice here, it says state transition last good plan forced.
Yep.
And it still gives me this recommendation, right?
Yeah.
So what does that mean? Well, I'm going to run the query again to see what it does, and boom, just flies.
This DMV is like your digital assistant. Hey Cortana, how is it doing?
it is, right? So first is, hey Cortana, you know, how's it going? You're like, well, did you realize that a really bad thing happened on your server and you can fix it?
Yeah.
Now Cortana's like, hey, did you know I fixed this? So imagine now, Scott, you come in the next day, you didn't get called.
Yeah.
But you go look this up and go, oh, hey.
Can we back up? We need to back up. So
Was I too fast for you?
Yeah, can we start way over?
Yeah, way over, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Welcome to the expert. No, I'm kidding. So at what point did the engine, because scroll up.
Yeah, sure.
So you ran it.
I ran the regression.
You ran the regression, and then it ran it slow.
Yeah, so here's what's happening.
Yeah.
So we have this query store thing, right, that we
Yeah.
have in the system. So in the background is a background thread monitoring behavior patterns of the kind of machine learning of what's in the query store. And it's background, so it's not going to be absolutely instantaneous, but within a few seconds it actually recognized, oh, I see a pattern of a deviation. I say, oh, this query used to run really, really well, and here's the key, the plan changed. That's what it looks
so
at.
the intelligence says
The plan changed.
It ran fast.
And it's a lot slower.
So it's going to run slow at least once for
Yes.
the engine to go, I see a discrepancy.
It's addictive. I discrepancy, I should do something right about, right?
Okay.
Now here's the cool thing. Over here in the query store, this is in 16 and 17, you have these reports built into Management Studio.
Yeah.
So if I look at the top consuming queries, I'm going to see this is the one I was focusing on. You see over the right over here, these two little circles?
Yep.
These are the deviation of the plans.
Yep.
The top one is the slow one, and the bottom one is the fast one. Notice the little check mark.
Yeah.
So in 16, you can go in with this button and say force plan right here, but notice it's already checked.
It already checked.
And the check means it auto made that decision for us.
Right. But for whatever reason, I might want to go, no, I like this slower plan because I'm a turtle. And
You could actually click back here, and you could go back and force that slower plan right here if you wanted to.
Right.
Yeah, you have the ability to switch back.
So it's going to, like we talked about the machine learning, it's going to go, I had this plan, it ran great, you just ran it, it ran slow.
Right.
I noticed the discrepancy, so I'm going to force this plan automatically.
But the key is, Scott, the default mode for you is just the recommendation mode. So you can go and look at these recommendations over time.
So it's not, okay, I have to physically go in and turn it on.
That's
and force
correct.
it. Okay.
You do that in SQL. In
Right.
Azure, we can do this stuff automatically,
right.
right? But for SQL Server, we're going to let the administrator, IT pro, DevOps guy say, hey, take a look at these recommendations and see what you think about them. And if you like them, why don't you just go to auto mode?
Is there a notification I might get to say, hey, I noticed this discrepancy, I fixed it for you, just an FYI?
You can run a query off this DMV.
Okay, so
there might be an extended event you can hang off if I could look at that. I'm not sure if we've got that in there yet. But yeah, you can hang off that DMV and just see if there are any changes to it.
So for now, I might want to just run a daily report to go.
Absolutely.
Here's what I automatically fixed for you.
Yeah,
That's right.
Yeah, imagine
My
you're
name's
texting.
Cortana, here's what I fixed for you.
Imagine you're testing upgrade scenario.
I had your
right?
wife calling. I fixed it.
I fixed it. Yeah, exactly.
Your wife was going to call, so I fixed this for you, so you could talk to your wife.
Yeah, honestly, I would think maybe if you're an upgrade scenario, you do some testing with 17. This thing is the recommendations is on by default, so you just see this stuff. You can kind of look at the pattern. Even when you're going into production, maybe you leave it that mode. And then if you see, I've got some issues here, you just turn it on and let it go, right? And again, the key is with Query Store is that you can go back now in the history and still see what happened.
Yeah.
So again, imagine you not getting called in the middle of the night, but we fix it for you, just a little blip. You come in the next day and investigate the problem during your normal work hours.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, that's the promise.
I like my sleep.
Yeah, you do like your sleep. Yeah, so,
I think we all like our sleep.
And honestly, this is just the tip of the iceberg.
Right.
Well, and I was just going to say that because if you think of the possibilities here, we talked about making it intelligent and making these DMVs and all this data available, and you can go, hey, if I can do this, if I can do that, I might be able to do X, Y, and Z as well by myself, right? And this is kind of what allows those third-party vendors to.
Absolutely.
I'm getting dumps. What do I do?
Yeah.
So
But what I also mean tip of the iceberg is that there's other features for SQL 17 that we don't have time to talk about today. But
this is why we'll be having Bob Ward and
Pari
back.
We will be back with more. Yeah, there are actually some other
stay
exciting
tuned.
stuff. Linux again. I'm really excited about what we're doing in Linux.
Oh yeah.
And by the way, guess what? What we just showed, it's in Linux.
Yep.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So Linux and
Yes.
Windows.
Yeah.
But we also have other features of 17 that go along this theme that we would love to come back and talk about.
We will definitely have you back. Same bat time, same bat channel.
Maybe I'll wear Cowboys next time. Dallas Cowboys. Well, I really make the Seattle Seahawks fans mad
that's
when I do
right.
that, so, yeah.
I'm surprised
Are we
you
having
let
the
you-
next
when
one?
you got off the plane, were you wearing so
Right.
big?
It's
No,
been-
sir. You need to get
It's
back
been
on the
dangerous
plane.
walking around campus this week.
The cab driver's like, sir, I'm not taking you out.
That's right. Exactly.
That's right.
Exactly.
You can walk.
Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly.
You know, I think this is exciting because we always learn, hear about the intelligence and how to make our job easier. Like you said, one of the big things about when working with SQL Server is got to make it better, faster,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
How do we make it easier for the DBA and those guys to troubleshoot and get to the real problem
Right.
quicker and faster? And this is, it's things like this, right?
And I'm thinking about this one especially for DevOps.
Yeah.
You're a dev guy. You're like
Yeah.
DBA. I mean, what are you talking about? But if you turn this on, imagine you're a DevOps guy. This could really be helpful for you,
You're
right?
helpful.
So,
Sure.
so thanks for having us.
Oh, this is
thanks
always
for
a pleasure. We will definitely be having you two back because
Okay.
there's so much, like we talked about before, right? We've had, these guys, Tobias and Savjani talking about Linux, but there's so much about 17 that we still need to cover, and so
Absolutely.
we will definitely be having you back. Whether it's you just need to let me know when you're in town, or
Yeah.
or if not,
Well,
we'll just-
the good news is I got plenty of colleagues on my Tiger team that just work in Building 16, not far from here.
Right.
I think they want to come over and get a shot at this
but it's,
too.
It's not the same without Bob Ward.
Well,
though. I
okay.
mean,
Maybe I'll have them wear a Ranger shirt. No, they would never do that.
They'll
They would
never do that.
They would
Okay,
never
that's right.
They would never.
My name's Bob Ward. That's not Bob Ward.
Exactly. The mask. They can
That's
do the big head.
We
so.
should just get a cardboard cut
Not
out.
out.
Of Bob
Just,
Ward.
okay, don't say anything because if they're watching, the Tiger team's watching, they would do something like
I
that.
can
to make it
imagine
fun,
that.
so,
Anyway.
yeah.
All right, gentlemen, thanks for coming. It's always a pleasure to have you. Everybody,
guys.
thanks for watching, and we will see you shortly.
Thanks.